And developing, deploying, and operating an edge cloud is critical to realize 5G. As service providers invest in 5G technology, the demands of the applications and services that will be delivered over this 5G infrastructure remain top of mind. That for operators to open up new business opportunities and new revenue streams. Enterprise, government, and consumer market sectors will drive use cases and opportunities where latency, scale, and bandwidth requirements demand a highly distributed edge cloud. On this executive panel, we'll discuss the challenges of building edge cloud, the rationale of moving to a managed edge cloud offering, hyperscale managed solutions, the associated value erosion, also the alternative managed offering to stay competitive, and finally, time to market. Joining us on this executive webinar series are Neil McRae. He's Group Chief Architect at British Telecom. We also have Guy McCormick. He's Senior Vice President Engineering at Cox Communications. We also have Rod Bartlett. He's Chief Executive Officer and Founder at What the Fast. We also have Wen Temitim. He's Chief Technology Officer at StackPath. And we have finally Raj Yavatkar. He's Chief Technology Officer at Juniper Networks. And gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being with us. We have sort of the whole gang here, quite a few of you on this discussion, so I'll do my best to moderate here. I want to go right into it. Raj, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you. Really at a 30,000-foot level, what is or what was the tipping point that was driving this edge cloud adoption?
So I think there are three inflection points that I want to point to. Most of the workloads are moving to the hyperscalers or public cloud. The use of machine learning and artificial intelligence has become commonplace in many applications. And third, we have more and more 5G infrastructure development happening. All those three things make the edge cloud tipping point for the following reasons. First, you have applications like mobile streaming that require lots of bandwidth, low latency. You have new applications like augmented reality. And also you want to reduce the amount of time it takes to react when you apply machine learning to applications like smart manufacturing, smart retail. All of that requires use of edge cloud. So that's the reason for really bringing up the edge cloud as a tipping point for the entire industry, in my opinion.
Just to add to that, I think, I actually think the edge started way back when we started running video over the internet, but we just didn't know how to do edge and we didn't know how to do cloud. With the hyperscalers and the cloud platforms coming along, it's really enabled us to take video closer to the customer, take other applications closer to the customer, and really focus on that customer experience so that no matter where you are in the world, you get the same experience consistently, whether it's a high bandwidth application or a low bandwidth application, or an application needs low latency, or also increasingly importantly, an application that just has to work. And I'm thinking about emergency services, healthcare, and those sort of applications that really, you can't really run them remotely. They have to be local to the user and they have to work 24/7.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, I mean, just to give a little bit of background, so what we do with What the Fast is we do mil-mile optimization for networking. So we help broadband providers to differentiate to gamers. And, in order to improve that networking, we want to grab the data as close as we can to the user, which involves an edge server. And we want to drop it as close as we can off to the game server. And so what we're doing is we're leveraging the cloud providers in order to do that. For the future, we see cloud gaming and augmented reality as major use cases for edge.
So we see network operators having four really primary paths in edge cloud adoption. One is really do nothing. The second one is the build option. Third is managed offering from hyperscalers. And last, managing offerings from a public neutral edge cloud partner. Let's really discuss the first two primary options. And Guy, I'll go with you first. Is do nothing really even an option? And the second part of that are, what are the real challenges of going down this build path?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll start with do nothing. Clearly, that's not an option. We think or feel that edge cloud is a natural evolution of cloud architectures and infrastructures and how they can be expanded and extended in ways that benefit consumers and end users in an unprecedented way. So we're super excited to be a part of that ecosystem and feel very much that we will be. There's unique propositions that we bring with the infrastructure that we built in improving latency performance, as well as bringing processing capabilities closer to that end user and improving that experience overall. In terms of options, sure, we could partner with hyperscalers. We could get time to market very, very quickly and enable certain capabilities. It's something we're considering. However, we think the alternative options that excite us more greatly is how do we participate in a greater value proposition in the ecosystem and how it develops. And that's partnering with others in forming a collaborative and standard open environment, which we could participate in a much broader ecosystem, and then extend that deeper into our networks, further improving the capacity and capability for the end user and the consumer. So that ultimately, that's how we perceive the future and how we like to participate in that as a service provider.
And I'd have to agree with Guy. Doing nothing really isn't an option with the way that applications are evolving. Video streaming goes from 1080p to 4K, more burst events. It'll become tougher and tougher to sustain those kinds of events. And then with the global pandemic, the world's kind of evolved to a new usage of the internet, and it kind of validates the idea that there are going to be certain applications or workloads that need to run at the edge to be able to sustain these kinds of times. So do nothing really isn't an option. And I think the challenge with the build option for some of the players is building an edge cloud is a very different skill set than they may have internally. And so it may be tough to bootstrap a team to build this new kind of design and then run it. And with the way that workloads are evolving so quickly, partnering with someone may allow them to get to market faster.
And Raj, again, is do nothing an option? Walk us down the build path. And then finally, why would you consider a managed offering? If you can walk us through those 3 points.
Sure. I think as others have said, build not doing is not an option for operators or anyone because you have a market need that you have to address. For the build option, I think, in my opinion, we want to work with our customers, which are operators, because bringing up expertise, processes, and people is harder when you're trying to build edge cloud because it's completely new technology. At Juniper, what we have done traditionally is that, for example, if you take network function virtualization as an infrastructure, we create a pre-validated stack that our customers, operators, could deploy. Similarly, we are looking at providing pre-validated, open, cloud-agnostic stack for edge cloud, working with standards forums such as CNTD. So that's the build option where we are willing to help. But I think if you go one step further and look at the managed build offerings, that even frees up our customers or operators from having to invest in infrastructure management rather than focus on offering value-added services in the area of mobile streaming, augmented reality, or any new services, applications like smart retail, smart manufacturing, and so on. So I think that's one of the most preferred options in my opinion.
And Neil, I'm going to go with you next. I'm going to get a little more granular. Let's go a little bit deeper and more specifically, what is really driving many network operators to consider hyperscaler managed edge offerings? And again, Neil.
Yeah, I mean, for really two drivers. For us, we'd only really consider that at BT based on a customer demand. So if you're a customer, you've got all your data in one of the cloud providers, you're not going to want to move it. You're going to want to use that cloud provider, and we need to work with those cloud providers and those hyperscalers to then expand what customers' needs are. I think for our own infrastructure, I think pretty much most operators are out there building. However, there are some smaller tier 2s or virtual operators where taking a managed service gets them up and running really quickly, gets them a huge amount of scale, maybe gives them some challenges on unit cost, I would suggest. But I could see many reasons around that, not having the capability themselves to build it as being the key one.
Yeah, so I mean, we started off with building and hosting our own servers for our core services, and we just found that there's a lot of additional cost to that. So it's actually beneficial for us to move to the edge providers. It gives us additional scalability, redundancy, and it also helps us to improve regional access to our core services, for different regions where we do business with our different broadband partners.
Yeah. And I agree, as a service provider, joining and being a partner in an ecosystem where we have greater collaboration, I think also drives competition to hyperscalers in a number of ways. And with that, you have increased innovation, capabilities, adaptability. And ultimately, I think that's what we'd all like to see as this ecosystem develops, how we can really drive rapid innovation and creativity. We talk a lot about 5G and other use cases for manufacturing, right? We're kind of in the nascent stage, it's all emerging. And so having that adaptability and participating with others in more of a collaborative ecosystem, I think really enables an architecture and a capability that will benefit many of our consumers.
I think I just come back on one thing. One thing has to be clear on edge. If we as telco operators can't make a return, then edge isn't going to go anywhere. And I think that's one of the critical differences between normal hyperscaler cloud platforms and operating at the edge. We need to feel part of that value stream, and we absolutely have to be able to make a return and power and differentiate for our customers.
No, that's a great point. And when you think about it as service providers, we really own the beachfront property here, right, in this conversation, right? The infrastructure that we own is really critical and really important. And I think leveraging that from a revenue standpoint is absolutely critical for us maintaining the infrastructure.
Raj, I'm going to go back to you. So how do Juniper and StackPath offerings provide this alternative path to managed edge cloud? And really, what are the pros and cons there of this alternate path to hyperscaler managed offerings? Again, Raj.
So as you heard from Neil or Guy or Rob, right, one of the things is that if you go to hyperscalers, the stickiness goes with the hyperscalers, even though you get the time to market acceleration. What we believe is that we would like to keep the stickiness with the operators, at the same time provide the time to market value. So for that, we have invested in StackPath for a joint edge cloud offering, which is completely managed. We do the integration of hardware and software, so our operators can focus on value-added service to be offered using managed cloud. That has multiple advantages. For example, if you take something like CDN as a service, a traditional CDN requires the CDN traffic to many times traverse the operator network multiple times. By having that integrated into the edge cloud offering, we can make it very specific to delivery to the right points without having to traverse the network multiple times. Similarly, we would enable operators to offer services like SDN as a service, firewall as a service, or even start hosting 5G CNFs or VNFs at that edge cloud, so that the third-party ecosystem can be used to accelerate time to market, at the same time keep the stickiness with operators.
And I think one of the value props for us as a company, with the partnership with Juniper, is they obviously have a deep history with working with service providers, since every service provider is in a very different place in their transformation of gaining value in their edge. So what we've built is a effectively Switzerland-like platform that can interconnect with any public cloud or work with any private data center, so that the service providers can leverage a platform that's agnostic to what workloads are running on it, and then kind of complement the public cloud story.
And Guy, any comments on alternative paths to managed edge cloud, the pros and cons, really?
Yeah, again, the managed cloud offering, and much like Juniper Networks, we're also an investor in StackPath. We're very passionate about the approach they're bringing to the table with the packaged managed cloud offering and the orchestration they offer. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, to compete with hyperscalers and others, we've got to have scale. And by developing kind of a standard open platform, it really allows us to achieve a degree of scale and, again, participating in a much broader ecosystem. It's not saying, hey, there's one or the other, right? I think they coexist in the future, in the world ahead. But I think the unique proposition and the orchestration that StackPath is bringing to us as operators with partnerships in Juniper and others is the ability to orchestrate across hyperscalers and kind of the edge cloud. Right? That's ultimately where we get excited, because there's a differentiation that we can bring, and that value proposition of that low latency, deep edge, as I'll refer to it often, capabilities that only a service provider can offer.
Hey, Neil, I'm going to go right to you. I want to maybe elaborate or enhance a little bit on the real barriers to the adoption of managed edge cloud offerings. Are they related to more organizational or more technological? For example, this may lead to not developing internal skill sets and processes. Can you try to explain that to us, Neil?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question. I think that for me, the key issue to developing your own solution is around skills, and I think, you've got to question yourself: do I need those skills to really be able to build your business and your infrastructure moving forward. And I think, where you've got someone that can help build a platform and then help you build those skills, such as what StackPath and Juniper are offering, I think that's a really advantageous way of kind of not learning mistakes right at the start, but actually being able to scale up step by step, learn step by step. But ultimately, I think you really need to be able to run this infrastructure for the future. It's going to be everywhere. We talk about edge like it's something in a telco building. I believe edge will expand into business units, factories, train stations, airports, stadiums, where if we're not able to run that and manage that as network operators and service providers, I'm not entirely sure what our role is other than digging streets up and putting fiber down, which that's a useful business. You can make 2% a year on that business, but we actually want to do a lot more. We want to be a much bigger part of the value chain. So probably where the biggest barriers are ensuring that you're able to take value out of this whole proposition and bring customers and traffic and capability to your platform. If you've got a vehicle that allows you to do that by working with a partner, then fantastic. And I think that's probably one of the advantages that some of the hyperscalers have got, is they can bring some of that traffic potentially on day one. Second question is how much are people willing to pay? There are some applications where you don't have a choice. You're going to have to pay for it. You're going to have to bring it to the edge. Absolutely no choice. There's others where it's like, well, it's not going to make a big difference. And I'm in the UK. We're the size of Texas, so our latency demands are slightly different to United States or to Russia or some of the big continents out there where there's or Canada, where there's huge countries and big latencies involved. We kind of don't have such a problem like that, so we can kind of take it at a different pace and maybe go down a different path. But leveraging the kind of instant up and running that the Juniper and StackPath bring.
Yeah, great points, Neil. And at the end of the day, I agree. It's really important that participation, right, with a broader grouping and that ecosystem I refer to is very important. Look, as operators today, we have a number of very successful businesses related to our partnership with enterprise and local customers. They look to us, they rely on us, not only for transport, but other advanced services that we offer today, whether it's SD-WAN or other managed services. I see this as just a continuation and extension of that relationship and that partnership we have with those enterprise customers, and how we can not only be a trusted provider of interconnectivity, transport, and other services, but also help them down this path of hyperscale to edge and where that extends beyond. So I think it's a very important part of that equation.
I think I just wanted to build on something there as well, which is I think we as telcos have to work with our customers in an entirely different way. And I've said this before, but the art of collaboration, I believe, is what's going to really drive edge adoption and 5G adoption. 5G right now is 4G a bit faster. If we really want to get the benefits out of 5G and cloud, it's about understanding our customers' businesses at a level where we could run them for them. Going in there with our technology, with edge, helping them automate their factory floor, helping them do crowd management in stadiums better, helping them do security in trains and airports better, and using the power of technology to really bring that value. Because if we aren't able to unlock that with our customers, then I think our play in this is going to be fairly limited.
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we've identified with What the Fast is that managing servers is not our core IP, right? So we're working with dozens of different providers around the world, and the greater we can simplify that and work with a single provider in dozens of locations, it really simplifies managing the network for us. And instead of focusing on how to keep servers online, instead we're focusing on the latest cloud tech, how we can leverage it to complement our core IP. Then we're free to work on our IP and build out whatever we need.
Point to Neil's, we didn't talk about it in the context of manufacturing, healthcare, and retail industry. What Neil said is true. We didn't talk about the 5G private networks. Because of the unlicensed spectrum being available, edge clouds will enable operators to offer 5G private networks to enterprises, so that a lot of the applications and the low latency, high bandwidth requirements can be met using the 5G private network, but offered as a service by the telcos.
Yeah, I wanted to go to Wen and Raj on some of the solutions here. Wen, I'll start with you, if you don't mind. Let's talk about some solutions for how these organizations can address these challenges, like developing maybe new technology know-how and operational technology staff, maybe hiring new talent to fill in the gap while partnering with third-party providers to edge manage deployments. Wen, can you just give us a little bit of, or enhance that a little bit for us?
Sure. So, one of the things that we think is near and dear to what makes our platform so powerful is, it's single API driven, but we try to do everything based on standards and extend abstraction layers that allow traditional toolkits to be leveraged, so that if there's existing tools that service providers are leveraging, they can integrate into our APIs and continue to use those, so that if they consume our managed edge cloud first, it's not a completely alien environment. And I think that's really the value prop of StackPath and Juniper, is that, we both have a history of knowing that the service providers are going to need to be helped. It's going to need to be collaborative. And unlike the hyperscalers, where sometimes there's it's my sandbox or nothing approach, we help them in that part of the value chain with that flexibility.
And Raj, if you can just give us, again, a little background on some of these solutions for how organizations can address these challenges.
Sure. I think I want to expand upon what Wen just said, and I agree with Wen. The operators would continue to keep expertise in-house in order to be able to maintain and offer those services. To do that, they will have to continue to expand the skill sets in the cloud-native era. But what the managed cloud offering offers to the operators is that once we have 100% focused on processes and technology to keep the infrastructure up and running, they can use their skill sets and their people to adding more services and operational experiences to the customers. And that's where it's very synergistic for us to offer a managed cloud offering. At the same time, the operators to continue to build skill sets and invest in their internal resources.
Now, I want to get some comments from all of you on this final question. Rob, I'm going to start with you, and we'll sort of go down the line here. Sort of a futurist question. How do you foresee the evolution of a cloud-neutral managed edge cloud offering and hyperscale managed solutions, Rob?
Right. So, like, where I see the biggest use case for edge would be with cloud gaming. So if you look at the traditional cloud gaming model, they've been trying to put traditional games into cloud gaming for like 20 years. I think they need to rethink the cloud gaming model. Like, think about doing a regional focused, stadium-like environment, for example, where we have thousands of people already in the same environment. That would be amazing. It would also be great for augmented reality. So, imagine, fighting a dragon together with your friends in the middle of City Park or something like that. That would be a pretty amazing use case, I think.
I think cloud gaming is a massive use case. I think, given, we're all at home because of this COVID crisis right now, I have to believe that healthcare is one of the biggest use cases. How can we really leverage the network to monitor our environment, to control the environment, to alert people when there's cause for concern, and to help our hospitals and first responders get to the job that they've got to do as quickly and as safely as they possibly can. Here in the UK, we've been using 5G and Edge to enable ambulances to take X-rays and high detailed scans whilst they're on the way from a road crash to the hospital, so that by the time the patient arrives, the doctor's already seen what he needs to see, and he can start working on that patient right away. It's those sort of use cases that I think will make a massive difference. I think in terms of that managed offering and where the market's going to go for edge, I think there's been a more compelling time to be in our industry. We've got the big Goliaths who are out there, want to hold on to their market share. We've got companies like Juniper, StackPath. We've got the operators, BT and Cox and others that are trying to kind of ensure that we stay close to customers, because those big Goliaths typically aren't that great at managing their customers directly. We're brilliant at managing our customers. Our customers trust our brands, and we can bring real value in security and in that collaboration aspect, and really getting to know our customers' businesses well, so that they can really win for their customers, working with operators and with the kind of managed solution that Juniper and StackPath can provide.
Yeah. No, I think those are all great points. And as I think through edge and the trajectory, I think elasticity. And ultimately, I think that's what we can bring as service providers, right, in terms of where we offer edge compute capability. Neil pointed out earlier, right, with manufacturing and other scenarios, just how deep into the network, up into, premise-based edge compute. And being that trusted provider with these enterprise customers allows us to make or offer those capabilities throughout our network, even up to hyperscalers and partnerships there. So, we certainly had an experience, as mentioned, with the pandemic. We saw a better than a year's worth of capacity demand on our network, and we all saw what was occurring with WebEx and Zooms and others as the demand increased. If we had the elasticity and the edge during that environment, it would have gone off without a hitch. And those are the exciting things in the future and the capabilities it will bring.
And when?
Yeah, and I think the value of a cloud neutral offering over time will allow the service providers to focus on their customers, but not be locked into any one specific hyperscaler. So if you have someone that's preferred A over B and you went with B, then going with the cloud neutral option allows them that choice and allows them to serve a wider net of customers in their footprint.
And Raj, if you could just sort of finish out the discussion here.
Yes. So I think thank you for all the comments. I think one of the things I want to add to the last comment is that apart from the applications like healthcare, connected ambulance that was mentioned, I think the COVID and social distancing has shown that there are also drone-based applications which will be used for public safety, public emergency. Because of social distancing, smart manufacturing, especially in the automobile sector, is going to be more prevalent. And for those, we need low latency, high bandwidth kind of edge cloud-based services. So those are all coming together. So I think it's a great time for us to working with StarkPath and operators like Cox and BT, and even the gaming providers like WhatTheFast, to provide managed cloud neutral, cloud agnostic edge cloud offerings that can accelerate offering of these services to our customers.
Raj, I wanted to mention, thank you for your support. This webinar series, or this webinar episode rather, wouldn't have happened today without your support at Juniper Networks. So we appreciate you doing that and also wrangling the group here together. We didn't hear when right off the bat, but I think everyone did a great job in just supporting the discussion. So thanks for everyone's time. Neil, it's good to see you again. Your webinar camera looks amazing, so I'm going to find out what brand that is. Guy, it's nice meeting you. I think you can probably see me. We have the same jacket on, so
looking sharp.
You look great as well. Rob, at WhatTheFast, I would have pronounced the name of your company incorrectly, but you corrected me a couple times, so I think I got it right. And Wen, great to have you. Sorry about the technical issue. These things happen, and we were able to push through it, so I appreciate your time. And Raj, again, thanks for your support. And to all of our viewers out there on this executive speaking panel, we thank our speakers for participating on the monetizing the edge without compromising the competitive edge. For this executive webinar on demand and all of our executive webinar series, please log on to thenetworkmediagroup.com. So long.